Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 50, In the Same Boat. I was merely testing the waters. Xiao Qiye's eyes were cold. Trust happens in the same way as the process of undressing. It's only by proceeding in a proper sequence that we can finally arrive at this candid conversation today. You are right. After the incident at the Nanlin hunting grounds, I thought that there would be changes to the cabinet led by Grand Secretariat Liege. However, he still appointed Shui Zhuo from the 8 great clans and put him in an important post. This shows that even when he reached the position where he could make significant changes, he still had to bow to the noble clan's power and influence. Under such circumstances, the Xiao clan alone cannot do anything, much like one log alone cannot be the pillar of an entire building. Then how should one characterize them? Shenzhen pondered over it a little. When there is no common enemy, they are their own adversaries. Keeping the balance and not letting the bowl of water spill over due to inherent bias is far more difficult than dealing with someone particularly. Before the Xiao clan's appearance, the 8 great clans merely underwent internal change following the rise of one clan and the fall of another. But after the appearance of the Xiao clan, they began to actually refine themselves. The defeat of the Hua clan is just temporary. The imperial court purged itself of the Hua clan's faction, but no one, not even Liege, proposed to hold the Empress Dowager accountable. The current marriage alliance between the Hua and Qi clans is to preserve the Hua clan's usefulness and to whittle away external help that the Xiao clan can seek. Some things, when seen on its own, might not necessarily tell you anything. It's only when the dots are connected that the emerging scenario will make your blood run cold. Are you talking about the defeat of the Zongbo troops and the marriage alliance between the Hua and Qi family? Xiao Qiye asked. The strategy of befriending a distant state while attacking the one nearby. Shenzhen extended a finger and drew a circle on the table. After taking down the 6 prefectures of Zongbo, a void will open up in Liege's defense on the southwest side. Xe province lies close to the northeastern supply route, which is the lifeblood of Liege. As there are no more Zongbo troops to defend it now, it has become the territory of the 8 great clans of the Chu capital. Bring the marriage alliance with the Qi clan of Qidong into play, and Liege will be left high and dry with its back to Hanjian Mountains, the Bianxia tribes to the east, and 2 enemies to the south. Zongbo fell 5 years before the marriage proposals. Who could have guaranteed that Hua Saiqian would start an insurrection? And who could have ensured that I would be in the right place to rescue the current emperor? There must be a purpose for the defeat of Zongbo's troops. Shenzhen said after a moment of silence. It's not hard to control the situation. The difficulty lies in controlling the direction in which the situation would progress to. If my guess is right, then there is someone hidden among the 8 great clans who can control the way the wind blows. If there's really such a person, Xiao Qiye said, then it means we're all weaky stone in the game board and everyone's action is within his anticipation. He is no longer a political genius, but a god who has the great Zhou under his control. How would one go about fighting someone like that? Your plan to set the 8 great clans against each other won't overcome the relationship forged through decades of marriage alliances between clans. Against a common enemy, they are inseparable. Even so, the unpredictability of the turbulent tempest is better than the tranquility of the calm sea. It's only when the water is muddied that they won't be able to distinguish between friend or foe. In reality, they are not as inseparable as you think. Shenzhen retracted his finger and continued, how is it that Xiao Fangxiu was able to break through the noble clan's defenses? If this web is really tight enough, then how could significant ministers like Qi Huilian and Liege rise in prominence spite of their humble backgrounds? Your father was able to establish the Liege armored cavalry's predecessor, the Loxia cavalry, because the officials of the Eastern Palace headed by the Crown Prince implemented the Yellow Register system to keep records of households. This enabled the frontiers to conscript soldiers for its troops. At the same time, it allowed the soldiers to have a hereditary household register so that they could belong under the jurisdiction of the regional military instead of the regional civilian government whose administrators would have been sent from amongst the Chu capital's noble sons. This separated it from the command of the regional civilian officials, which allowed the Prince of Liege to consolidate power within his army. In addition to that, the strength of Liege's military force today is intricately linked to the implementation of conquest farming in the Great Zhou. You know better than I do how important these military troops who carry out both garrison and farming duties are. Why was Lu Guangbai having a harder time than Xiao Jiming? Because the Bianjun commandery had no way of putting the policy of army farming into practice. The desert wastelands could not be cultivated to produce food, so Lu Guangbai could only rely on the subsidy of Chu capital's military funds and provisions. Though the policy of employing 70% of the military troops to till the lands and 30% for military affairs and defense might not allow the frontier troops to achieve full self-sufficiency, but it significantly eased the burden of feeding regional armies, which was of vital importance to the frontier troops. Grand Tutor Qi would rather pretend to be a lunatic if it would allow him to drag out his ignoble existence. Other than his unappeasable hatred, he was also loath to abandon the wounds that had been torn open. The Eastern Palace had dozens of subordinates, all of whom were officials from humble families that the Crown Prince had personally handpicked himself. To assist the Crown Prince, Qi Huilian had given every last drop of his lifelong learning to the service of the Crown Prince and invested it in him. 5 years ago, when he raised his arms to the heavens and cried, "The dust has settled," every word had bled with his fury and inability to simply resign himself to it. "You encroach into my territory one step at a time, and indulge me again and again to push your boundaries, all just for tonight. Also you can get me into the same boat as you." Xiao Qiye leaned forward slowly, his eyes cold. "But if I had not followed the trail to Shi Hongxian tonight or figured out your purpose, would you really trample down on me and use me as a stepping board? You are a wolf with a keen sense of smell." Shenzhequan said, "Why do you make yourself out to be so pitiful? If I weren't me, you wouldn't give me a chance to step in at all. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. You and I are such breed of people. Instead of asking me, why don't you do some self-reflection first?" Xiao Qiye said, "You're the jackass." Shenzhequan said, "It isn't easy to find like-minded jackasses." Xiao Qiye stopped contending with him and went straight to the point. He said, "The way I see it, you're the one who wants to borrow and make use of my power. But one needs a little bargaining chip before a treaty of alliance can be established. We share will and woe." Shenzhequan said, "Your Yao clan is about to be kicked out of the game soon. Doesn't that make you anxious, second young master Xiao?" "I can't use Yao when you..." Xiao Qiye said, "You don't understand. The reason why the Yao clan is on friendly terms with me is really not to be for power. It's purely because Yao Wenyu is. Well, once you meet him, you'll understand. The reason he didn't enter the ranks of officials is not because Hai Lianji couldn't bear to let him, but because he himself was unwilling. The members of the Yao clan all used to be some important ministers in the past. It was only until his father's time that they started to fall into decline. But the remaining prestige of his grandfather is still present. They are a major clan highly respected amongst the literati, and their reputation among the civil officials is by no means something people like Hua Saiqian could ever compare to. It's not difficult if he wants to make a comeback, but he's content to wander freely and unrestrained like a wild crane rising above the drifting clouds. If Shi Hongxian can really kick the Yao clan out, then he will be all the more carefree and unfettered by worldly concerns. Seeing as the Yao clan is already linked to the Fei clan through a marriage alliance, then he must be cousins of the commandery Princess Zheyu, right?" Shenzhequan asked suddenly. "That's right," Xiao Qiye picked up his chopsticks and confirmed. "Lady Zheyu most likely wants to marry him, but the Marquis of Helian is so cowardly and does everything the Empress Dowager asks him to do. Then perhaps both of you can become relatives." "The marriage fell through, didn't it?" Xiao Qiye said, you derailed my wedding arrangements and cost me a beauty. Don't you owe me some sort of compensation? Shen Zequan raised his eyebrows slightly. Xiao Qi rinsed his chopsticks in the cold tea and lifted his eyes to look at him. He asked, do you know that there is only a 2-word difference between sharing a boat on the same river and sharing a pillow on the same bed? If you ask me, there's no harm in mixing up these sayings, or even these actions, in the future. The stifling warmth in the room was making Shen Zequan a little lightheaded. He didn't reply, but instead, he turned to open the window. Xiao Qi did not touch any of the dishes. Instead, he said, I brought you here, let you eat my dishes and drink my wine. Aren't you even the least suspicious? Shen Zequan looked at Xiao Qi. The caress of the cool breeze finally made him feel uncomfortably hot as a thin sheen of sweat touched his skin. His tightly clasped collar was folded around his fine, pale neck as the red plums leaning down from the window complemented his black hair, making him look all the more indescribably exquisite. Salt like snow drifted outside the window, and some fell along the window onto the back of Shen Zequan's hand, where they quickly melted into a splotch of moisture. This pinprick of coldness made the heat in his body even more distinct. In his trance, aberrant thoughts did come into Shen Zequan's mind, making him want to undo his collar. This is not part of the deal. Shen Zequan said, I have no need of a bed warmer at the moment. Xiao Qi drew one of his long legs up and said, right now, you look like you need one. Business is business and pleasure is pleasure. We're done talking business, we can now slowly straighten out our personal affairs. Did Shi Hongxian send you that boy from Wuhua Pavilion the other day? I heard he only likes ladies. Since when has he changed his preference, too? Cut-sleeve relationships between men are no longer uncommon. Shen Zequan replied, I don't know if his preference has changed. Why? Has second young master Xiao's preference changed? I'm fickle. Xiao Qi picked up the lock of hair that trailed at Shen Zequan's knees. It always depends on my mood. Shen Zequan lifted a finger to pull back his lock of hair that was already matted with sweat. He said, some people make themselves out to be romantic and charming. They look like they can conduct themselves in an orderly manner when in fact, they only know how to gorge themselves like ravenous beast. Are we a little out of practice? Xiao Qi shoved aside the small table and grasped the wrist that Shen Zequan was about to pull back. He said. And some people look so pitiful when they are drenched in sweat. The heat within Shen Zequan persisted, and his skin that was in contact with Xiao Qi almost seared with heat. Propping himself up with an arm on his knee, Shen Zequan demanded, what did you drug me with? Make a guess. Xiao Qi tugged Shen Zequan on the wrist, then suddenly asked him back, Ji Gang wouldn't have been able to teach you these things. Who is teaching you? Or should I ask, what's the name of your mentor? The corners of Shen Zequan's eyes reddened as he replied softly, I'm not telling you. Within the small space, Xiao Qi took a light sniff and suddenly said, you smell so good. Shen Zequan's breathing quickened as he countered, have you reached the stage where you have to use your beauty to ensnare a man? Xiao Qi responded, I'm far from being a beauty. Why, am I getting under your skin? We're just having a little chat. Sweat soaked through Shen Zequan's inner garment. Drawn out by the ambiguous atmosphere permeating the room, the heat was turning viscous and damp. Shen Zequan itched to wipe his sweat away. He frowned as he demanded, what exactly did you put in my food? Xiao Qi laughed aloud and said flirtatiously, I'm just fooling around with you. It's just medicinal wine. Shen Zequan found his gaze extremely dangerous that he could not help but close his own eyes against them. As he fought for some composure, he muttered, Xiao Xian. Xiao Qi raised his cup and downed the cold wine from his cup. At Shen Zequan's words, he suddenly bent his head down and covered those lips. Shen Zequan was pushed back towards the window where the plum blossom branch shook on contact. He leaned back slightly, feeling like his waist was going to break under the tight hold. Some snow fell on Xiao Qiye's nape, but he ignored it. Half of his body was almost pressing down on Shen Zequin. His fingers pushed their way through the gaps between Shen Zequin's fingers, forcibly interlocking them together. Ever since that glance at the feast of 100 officials, Xiao Qiye had been thinking about kissing him. Their talk today had only added fuel to the fire. He had already been enduring and restraining himself for an entire night. All throughout their acquaintance, he had seen how ruthless and merciless Shen Zequin could be, and how he could retreat and advance as he pleased. Xiao Qiye couldn't decide what to make of him, but was left with only the desire to pin him down and kiss him until he was deeply and thoroughly flushed, with his eyes brimming with desire. Shen Zequin's chest heaved. His sweat-damp skin was drying in the wind, making him shiver. He was unable to stop Xiao Qiye from feeding him the wine, which slid down his throat, making him choked. Xiao Qiye bit the tip of his tongue to preventing him from coughing the wine out. So, all he could do was to endure it until his eyes watered. It seemed that even if the sky were to fall right at this moment, Xiao Qiye would not release him. Then, there was a sudden thud that rang out from above, and someone tumbled down immediately afterwards. Ding Tao plunged headfirst into the pile of snow, then abruptly pulled his head out of it. It was so freezing cold that he rubbed his arms around himself furiously. About to give someone a piece of his mind, he raised his head and found himself looking directly at the window. He could not help but gape in shock, with his eyes bulging, his jaws dropping and his soul leaving his body. In that instant, Shen Zequin kicked Xiao Qiye away and held onto the window, coughing. The back of his ears were all flushed and his mouth was saturated with the scent of wine. Xiao Qiye's breathing was a little rugged as he looked darkly out of the window. Ding Tao's teeth chattered as they fought against each other. He reached out a trembling finger and pointed very slowly upwards as he whispered, so sorry, second young master." Above them, Qiao Tianya and Gu Jin held their breaths and looked on with rapt attention as they wisely pretended not to be there. Without waiting for Xiao Qiye to say a word, Ding Tao sprang up and fled. He climbed the tree with swift movements, then made his way back to the roof with a swoosh. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 51, Commander-in-Chief. In the darkness, Xiao Qiye used his thumb to wipe the corner of his mouth where some residual wine was left. He said, "One kick for one kiss. Neither of us loses out." Shen Zequin turned back to look at him. Xiao Qiye smiled at him and continued, "Each is a horse of a different color, let's not confuse them. Aren't you still going to trample on me in public in the future? Go ahead and step on me, Lanzo. I'll pay each debt back in full with interest." Shen Zequin used his tongue to wet the spot he had been bitten and told him, "You won't have this kind of opportunity every single time." Xiao Qiye took a step closer, completely shrouding him under his own shadow. He replied, "And you won't be able to run away every single time." Having said that, Xiao Qiye extended his hand to pluck the red plum beside Shen Zequin. He rubbed the petals into mush and sent that redness into his mouth. Under his gaze, Shen Zequin had imagined that he, himself was that red plum. In his mental evaluation of Xiao Qiye, he quietly added having the determination to win in addition to having a keen sense of smell. Shen Zequin once thought that desire would overcome Xiao Qiye and frustrate him to no ends. However, Xiao Qiye's behavior was beyond Shen Zequin's expectation. That arrogant character of his meant that he only knew how to march forward bravely. Any retreat or concession was only in preparation for the next time he made a better planned comeback. He was an overwhelmingly dangerous threat. "Light the lamps." Xiao Qiye turned his head to shout out. After a short moment, the maidservants pushed the door open and entered. They moved out a small screen, cleared away the leftovers, spread a mat over the rug, and swapped to a big, square tea table with girdled waist and horsehooves legs. Chen Yang changed his shoes and entered the room. He placed the Imperial Army's military affairs and name register of personnel on the tea table, then took the teapot from the maidservant's hands and kneeled at the side to make tea for the two men. With someone else present, both men resumed the roles of upright gentlemen when they took their seats again. Shenzequan had partially sobered up. Bathing in the breeze had helped him break free of his earlier hot flushes and lightheadedness. Only the scarlet on his face remained, further accentuated by the dim light of the lamp that surrounded him. Even Chen Yang did not dare to look straight up at him, for fear that his gaze would be an affront to both Shenzequan and Xiao Qiye and made them displeased. Chen Yang brewed the tea and thought, no wonder Tantai Hu was worried. Shen Lanzhou is clearly born with the looks of one capable of bringing ruin to the nation and misfortune upon the commoners. Moreover, he has such a temperament. Anyone who is on familiar terms with his master, even a little bit, should be afraid. What was Xiao Qiye most fond of? Taming horses and tormenting eagles. During the taming process, Xiao Qiye would not sleep when the eagle was not sleeping. The harder it was to tame, the more attention he would pay it. The harder it was to train, the more he would favor it. Back then, while they were fighting the Bianchi cavalry, Xiao Qiye could lay in wait for so long simply because he adored the process of taming and training. He inherited from Xiao Fangxiu the desire to conquer and subjugate that far surpassed that of an ordinary man. This was his most inherent difference with Xiao Jiming. Chen Yang presented the tea to the two of them, made a slight bow and said, if the young master has any further instructions, please just call for me. Then he rose and retreated to change back into his boots and stand guard outside the door. Gu Jin hung his head down from the rooftop, tossed a wine bag to Chen Yang, and cast him an inquiring gaze to ask about the situation inside. Chen Yang slowly exhaled and said, it's all fine. Young master has a measure of propriety. Ding Tao was still hugging his head and murmuring, am I going to die, die, die? Hard to say. Qiao Tianya nudged against the snow to pull out his pipe and laughed out loud. On this day next year, this Ger will remember to burn paper money for you. Ding Tao's tears were about to fall. Grabbing his hair, he glared at them in anger and complained, it's all your fault, both of you. If you didn't fight with each other, I wouldn't have tried to break up the fight. If I didn't intervene, then I wouldn't have tumbled off. If I didn't fall, then I wouldn't die. I hate you both. Qiao Tianya concentrated wholeheartedly on starting a fire with the flint, while Gu Jin folded his arm and dozed off. Ding Tao hated them so much that he fished out his book and jotted down at high speed to vent all his fury within, cussing them both as the world's greatest bastards. Once done, he wiped the tears at the corners of his eyes, then turned around to continue venting his thoughts as they gushed forth like spring water. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Having had a change of tea, the men in the room continued their discussion. Xiao Qiye said, returning to the topic, you said that there is someone hiding within the Chu capital who is capable of manipulating the 8 great clans. I thought about it and found it highly unlikely. That medicinal wine burned up Shenzequan's throat so much that it was billowing smoke. He drank several cups of tea before saying, you think it is not possible because it is too difficult to do such a thing effectively. Xiao Qiye said, that's right. Let's leave the others aside for now. Even the Empress Dowager herself would not deign to listen to someone else's instructions. What if she wasn't aware of it herself? Shenzequan asked, sometimes, you don't need to command others in order to manipulate the situation. With just one finger, you can nudge the powers into action and change a lot of things from there. You have to prove the existence of this person first. Xiao Qiye looked at him and said, you look like you're feeling quite warm. Shenzequan lifted his fingers to undo his clasp. That clasp gently broke free of its fastener to gradually reveal his smooth neck between his fingers before coming to a stop at the top of his collarbone. Tiny beads of sweat slid down along the contour of his neck into that depression, wetting his fingertips. Although Shi Hongxian is a weaky stone out in the open, he's a very important piece. Shi Hongxian is needed to confirm whether this person exists or not, so you can't take him off the game at this time. Shen Zequan paused for a moment. You won't be able to implicate him anyway. He never once showed himself during this assassination case. Fu Ling's confession can only prove that she was coerced. And the most likely suspect at the moment is you. It was your idea to frame this on me. Xiao Qiye looked at that disappearing bead of sweat. You are now an official in the Son of Heaven's inner circle, one that is deeply favored by the Emperor. If this incident can remove you from position and put you off duty, Shi Hongxian will not pass up the chance. He will definitely try to seize an opportunity to seek the 8 Great Training Division's authority of office. It's only by luring them out of their lairs that we can get a clearer look at whom to attack. Besides, His Majesty trusts you. Even if he demotes you, he will not immediately and easily put his trust in others. After a period of time, he will see the blazing rise of the 8 great clans' power and arrogance, and he will realize that he had been played for a fool. He will instead harbor guilt towards the innocent ones who have been implicated, and then he will try to find ways to make it up to you. The jut in Shen Zequan's throat bobbed as he drank the tea. Then he continued, my guess is that you had already thought of a countermeasure before you came to me. Sure, let's play. Xiao Qiye poured tea for him. I'll merely be beating you at your own game and letting you people trample on me. This is much wiser than fighting back at this point. Shen Zequan said. The more anxious you are at this time to clear your name and involvement in this matter, the more suspicious His Majesty will be. I know His Majesty. Xiao Qiye said, he is a credulous man and easily susceptible to persuasion. He cannot stand being instigated, but he cannot stand being humiliated either. I'm his close friend and the first person he promoted to his side after he ascended to the throne. I'm kind of a symbol for the way he faces his court officials. Trapped both on the inside and the outside, I've become a livestock in his hands, one that he corralled in and raised. To him, I've no one to rely on, and it's only with his backing that I can secure this position of mine. If someone were to scheme against me, thereby kicking me down, then he will definitely have the feeling of sharing the same fate, just like how teeth feel cold when the lips are gone. The Hua faction is his sore point and the source of his anxiety. The reason he feels reassured in getting Hai Lianji to make decisions regarding government affairs is because he knows that Hai Lianji will not form cliques or join political factions. We mustn't let such a golden opportunity slip. Shen Zequan held his teacup and considered it for a moment before saying, this time, we must make Shi Hongxian take action. I have to remind you of one thing. Xiao Qiye propped up his elbow on the table and beckoned to Shen Zequan. Shen Zequan put down his teacup and leaned over. Xiao Qiye whispered, if you can't hold your liquor, then don't go drinking with others. Not every bastard has the second young master's level of willpower to remain unswayed by distracting thoughts and remain an honorable, well-behaved gentleman in front of you. Shen Zequan looked askance at him and emphasized his words, but this honorable gentleman has harbored quite the thoughts too, hasn't he? Xiao Qiye gazed at him and said, once we step out of this door tomorrow morning, you and I will be mortal enemies. Since enemies know best how to hold each other in high regard, then isn't it only fitting for me to think of you? Shen Zequan said, I don't think of you. Xiao Qiye said, every plan you make these days revolved around me. I'm afraid that it's not only that you think of me but that I am in your thoughts every single night and day. How did that kick from the feast of 100 officials not get to you? Shen Zequan raised his hand to block Xiao Qiye's breath on him and said, how could it not be enough to sober up second young master Xiao? The tip of Xiao Qiye's nose was pressing against Shen Zequan's palm. He stared at Shen Zequan and said wickedly, how callous, Lanzo. You tease me in all ways possible before betting me. And now that you have betted me, you set up defenses in every possible way to guard against me. You heartless cad. What a fickle man. His gaze made Shen Zequan slightly averted his eyes. Shen Zequan said. Second young master Xiao is very inebriated tonight, isn't he? Xiao Qiye suddenly retreated and said, during the court session tomorrow morning, someone will surely raise questions and will try to lay blame. Kong Qiu will present Fu Ling's previous confession statement as it is. When the time comes, the Chief Surveillance Bureau will have to hold me accountable for my negligence in supervising my men. With his palm now empty, Shen Zequan said, even if you wish to take a step back, you can't make it too obvious. Once I'm caught in a vicious siege of verbal and written condemnation, it'll be up to His Majesty to decide on my punishment. Xiao Qiye said. At best, your salary will be cut for a few months. At worst, your authority token will be suspended and you will have to reflect on your mistake. Xiao Shisui is still in the Chu capital. Everyone would still have to give him face, so they won't overdo their criticism of you. De Ji's time in Chu capital is very short. Xiao Qiye stopped. Once I'm punished, there'll be no one else to stop the marriage between Hua Xianji and Qi Xiu. It'll take time for the marriage union between the Qi clan and Hua clan to happen. Shen Zequan thought for a moment, then continued the current. Commander-in-Chief of Qidong 5 Commandery military troops is Qi Zuyan. Perhaps we can start with her. Xiao Qiye thought of something and said, I have an idea. Shen Zequan asked, what? The Ministry of Rights has passed marriage records of the Hua clan. I'll get someone to polish it up a little, then give this transcribed copy to Qi Zuyan. She will not accept Hua Xianji easily. It's not taboo for distant relatives to marry in Great Zhou, even marriage between cousins is fine. Shen Zequan said, or is Commander-in-Chief Qi bothered by it? She is. Xiao Qiye explained. As we all know, Qi Xiu is a lecher, and he has taken many beautiful women all over Qidong 5 Commandery into his residence as his concubine. One of them is his niece. A few years back, this madam gave birth to a baby who was born with a defect and was abnormally sick and weak. The baby lasted for only a few days before it was buried. From then on, each time Qi Xiu takes in a concubine, Qi Zuyan would be particularly wary of breaking this taboo. As long as there were some blood relations between them, even if she was a distant relative, Qi Zuyan would not allow the woman to marry into the family. But Hua Xianji's marriage to Qi Xiu was specifically arranged by the Empress Dowager herself. Shen Zequan said. I doubt the Commander-in-Chief can stop it even if she wants to. Since there's already no way she can stop it, then she can only take a step back to make a concession and let the third young Miss Hua marry in. Xiao Qiye's eyes were cold. But she can't let her give birth to a child. Hua Xianji is marrying Qi Xiu as his second wife, which means that she will be the legitimate and rightful madam of Qidong. The child she gives birth to will be a legitimate child who can claim to be of the same direct line of descent as Qi Zuyan. Qi Zuyan is a woman. It was indeed not easy for her to subdue and bring Qidong 5 Commandery military forces under her control for all these years. She is a great general who has truly shed blood. But who can guarantee that no one will have something else in mind? If Hua Xianji were to give birth to a son, Qi Zuyan would have no choice but to be caught up in an internal struggle for military power. She is in need of a reason to suppress Hua Xianji. I heard that there are sons born in the Qi clan. But Qi Xiu was hell-bent on having his own way to give to Qi Zuyan the commander-in-chief position of the military forces. Shen Zequan said, wasn't this out of an appreciation for her talents? That's right. Xiao Qiye said, Qi Zuyan was born by his first legitimate wife, and she is also a talented field commander that he personally taught. When he still had no sons, he treated and raised Qi Zuyan as if she was one. He came to have sons later on, but none of them could be compared to her. At that time, Qidong was still at war with Bianxia. Qi Xiu was seriously injured and was unable to lead the troops. They were trapped at the east side of Bianxia-linked camps, and none of the Qi clan sons dared to step up to take up the mantle. It was Qi Zuyan who carried a blade on her back and rode a horse through the night to go gather reinforcements from the Chaijun Commandery, Bianjun Commandery, and Suotian Pass garrison troops and got them to follow her into battle. Then, with the help of the wind, she set fire to the Biancha-linked camps and burned them all down. This was the battle that made her famous and earned her the moniker of Wind Guiding the Scorching Plains, precisely because of how she led the soldiers that battle to draw their swords while braving the fire to carry out Qi Xiu on her back. Qi Xiu was originally hesitant and undecided. But after that incident, he immediately handed over the commander seal and gave all the 5 commandery military troops to Qi Ziyin. The conferment of the commander-in-chief title requires the approval of the Chu capital. Shenzhequan said, "It's not an easy feat to achieve." Xiao Qiye smiled. He touched the thumb ring on his finger and said, "You would have never imagined that Emperor Guangcheng was not the one who conferred the title on her." Shenzhequan tilted his head slightly. Back then, when news of it spread back to the Chu capital, the various parties all denounced it. Because Qi Ziyin is a woman, the Ministry of War questioned whether her military exploits were fabricated. Thus, they submitted a petition to the Grand Secretariat requesting them to dispatch the Chief Surveillance Bureau Censor and Jin Yi to Qidong to carry out a thorough investigation. Seeing how worked up the crowd was, Emperor Guancheng delayed Qidong's request and did not approve it. Her meritorious military service was later verified, and the Ministry of Rights submitted a memorial allowing her conferment. However, she was not allowed to go up the Jade Dragon terrace used by military officers and generals, to receive her conferment. She could only kneel and kowtow before the stairs of Mingli Hall. Xiao Qiye paused for a long time. It was the Empress Dowager who stood her ground against the objections and obstacles and allowed her to step onto the Jade Dragon terrace so that she could be conferred the title of Commander-in-Chief of Qidong's military forces in an open and dignified manner. End chapter.